Good evening, everybody. Yeah, you can hear me. So I'm happy to see so many faces here. Welcome on the debate. Baltic Way, United for Security, here in Cafe Campus Ibernska. As you see, we have 3 guests. We'll be talking about Baltic experiences in strengthening the security and cooperation. And so let me introduce you Her Excellency, Ms. Gita Kalmet, who is Ambassador of Estonia in Prague. Good afternoon. From Lithuania, His Excellency Rolandas Kačinskas. And on my left, from Latvia, His Excellency Velmars Henings. And I'm Tomáš Brodík from Respect magazine. So as we agreed, may I ask you for a few words at the beginning, some general notes, and may I ask you, Ms. Kalmet, to start to say whatever you want to say about our topic.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. It's a big challenge to take a floor in front of such an exquisite audience. So we hope that you will be participating actively in this exchange of views. I myself have to tell you that when we had a meeting, was it a month ago? And we were told that about this possibility to have this Baltic evening. I was very enthusiastic, but I have to admit that my enthusiasm faded away very quickly when I was suggested a topic to talk about, and the topics were digitalization and cybersecurity. So I was thinking that I'm a diplomat. This is not exactly my my field of competence. But as a diligent school kid, I did my homework. So I tried to tell you something about cybersecurity in Estonia and how Estonia is trying to help Ukraine in the field of cybersecurity, and also some interesting discoveries in the digitalization in Estonia. This is for the beginning.
We're looking forward to that. Mr. Kačinskas.
Thank you for having us here. As my opening statement, maybe I want to say that it's a huge privilege for me to be here on this particular day, because just 2 days ago, my country celebrated the 35th anniversary of the reestablishment of independence. And I'm saying this and underlining this not only because I would expecting applause, but because I think it's very fitting, since it fits our topic very well, because the story of Lithuania, the story of the Baltic states, tells the story of where we're coming from, what we achieved, what we are, and what's at stake for the future and for the security. And I think we will continue talking this evening exactly about all these topics, what are of the most importance nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Henning?
Yeah, thank you very much for everybody for this possibility to be here and to discuss with you some very important issues what we have on the table now. It's about the security first of all, and especially it's a very important issue for all 3 Baltic states. And as well, I'm ready to describe for you what happened in my country, in Latvia, how we are preparing ourselves for our possible incoming problems, how we react to the current warfare, what we have. I mean, hybrid warfare, because we are not speak so much about this, We are just mostly speaking about hard security, but it's not only about this one. And especially for the hybrid warfare, there are no simply borders. And maybe sometimes we have a false feeling that if we are living far away from Russia, that means that we are safe. But the reality is that we are not safe, and we can discuss about this today. Thank you very much.
So let's start. Ms. Kalmet, when we were chatting back there, getting ready for the debate, you told us that at was it the governmental webpage? Was it like that? Yeah, that you have discovered something weird and mysterious and dangerous, possibly. So, and we were all intrigued. I can't now say the word. Interested. So, what have you discovered?
As I told you, that I was assigned this topic of digitalization, and I went to the Estonian e-government website to check whether there is something new. And to my great surprise, I discovered a fresh entry, which said that, and the entry was made in January, and it said that 100% of government services are digitalized, and divorce being the final step. Mm-hmm. It means that now you can do in Estonia everything online. You can get married and you can also get divorced. And I can even read to you how it was hilariously it was explained at the webpage. They say that the final service to be digitalized was divorce, a complex and emotionally sensitive process. By bringing this service online, Estonia has demonstrated its ability to innovate even in the areas requiring nuance and care. Couples can now submit applications digitally, access pre-filled forms, and finalize their divorce with minimal stress. So I really found it like a joke from the stand-up comedy, and I don't know whether it's good or bad that the divorce has been made so accessible. But I can tell you that this final service was introduced in January. Now we are March, and what they say that 53% of applications, divorce applications, are already made online. So now it's kind of up to you to decide whether it's good or bad. But of course, the mere fact that all government services are digitalized, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. I cannot complain about it. So do you want me to continue, or you want to...
Well, that's a good thing that all is digitalized. Now, when Estonia is successfully hacked, all marriages in Estonia can be divorced online by Russian secret services, for instance. So that's of course a good thing, but the cybersecurity then is even more important, right? And what I wanted to ask, and it's, of course, I want to ask you first, because Estonia is a pioneer in this, but of course I want to ask all of you, because it doesn't mean that in other Baltic countries there is no digitalization and everything. When you want to make your country cyber secure, and let's assume that there are some other countries who are not that far in this, like, I don't know, Czech Republic, for instance, and we would ask you for advice, like where to start, how to start, what is the most important, what is the basic thing to make your country cyber secure, what that would be. Where to start to build like good foundation for cyber secure country where you can even like file for divorce online. And you are not, and okay, divorces are not funny, but it's not that important from the point of security. But yeah, what is the good start for building a secure country?
Okay, I can tell you. I have to go a little bit back in the past. Estonia's experience is quite dramatic because 2007 we were heavily attacked by Russians. Our government decided to dislocate Soviet monument from the city center, from the old town, to the outskirts of Tallinn, to the military cemetery. And it outraged Russian minority in Estonia with a little help from Kremlin, of course. And it kind of resulted in the riots in Estonia, looting, which lasted in some cases 2 weeks. And in addition to that, Estonia was heavily attacked. We had cyber attacks that brought down our government websites, bank websites. Sort of for a moment, luckily it was quite a brief moment, but Estonian state became dysfunctional. And this is big warning to everyone. Luckily, it didn't last long because our CERT was able to re-establish all connections. But then, what happened? Of course, government was taking measures, but the most impressive thing for me, what happened was that Estonian Shadow Defense League, Cyber Defense League was established. And what is Cyber Defense League? These are people who took it, not just people, these are outstanding IT specialists in Estonia who realized the seriousness of situation, and they decided to found this defense league. In their everyday lives, they are all working in the government agencies, they are working in banks, in IT sector, but they are all ready, they are practicing, they are exercising to be ready when, for example, one of the important utilities or one of the most important service providers will be taken down. For me, it's one of the most impressive things in Estonia, or how Estonia has been preparing for possible attacks from our eastern neighbor, and furthermore, all those people are, these are people who our government wouldn't be able, or the government wouldn't be able to afford to employ, but now they got together on a voluntary basis, and I must say that this what happened 2007, this horrible looting in our beloved old town, this is a very good recruitment surgeon for this kind of group.
So it's kind of virtual territorial defense.
Absolutely.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
And this is my advice to you, to Czechia, if you asked.
Mr. Kačinskas, what is apart from voluntary defense of internet, what are the basics of safe country?
I think it all comes to the understanding what's at stake, and that understanding that freedom and security cannot be taken for granted. And when I'm looking at you, mostly young faces here, probably you tend to think that everything what you have, what your parents achieved is stable and irreversible. Unfortunately, the history of Ukraine, the threats that we have, that we see, and that's coming from the east, tells that unfortunately the life is not that simple and not that stable. So I think first of all there must be understanding that the security issues that we have to fight for them. That each generation is responsible not only for its own future, but for the future of coming generations, and to take things seriously. And when we have this understanding, then it translates in all the cyber security, in hard security, and all other types of security. But first of all, comes with this understanding, and where the education plays an important role, where the politicians have to play a certain role in making sure that in not being able openly communicate to the societies and not to wrap everything and sometimes in nice papers. We have to be honest with each other what the kind of situation we're living at now.
Mr. Henich, your advice?
I would be short. First of all, advise. No, you need a capable institution which could manage all of these possible threats, cyber threats, and we have such an institution. We know that there are almost every day there are cyber attacks from the Russian side, but they so far quite successfully manage all of these threats. Another issue is about, Gita already mentioned, it's about education, about the shortage of the IT specialists, and this is a problem for almost every country, and that means that state must invest more in the education of specialists in IT sphere. And maybe another +1 is that it's about the education, how you can manage by yourself kind of the problems if you have in a cyber sphere, like if you're working with the computer and suddenly appear some interesting things, and you simply don't know what to do with this. Yeah, for this, at least in frankly speaking, we have some for the state authorities, let's say, and then civil servants. We have special courses how to recognize all the possible problems, cheatings, and so on. But it would be very useful for every citizen in a country, to get kind of the basic skills how to act on this one and avoid of possible problems.
Yeah, that's why I want to ask: what is the biggest challenge to make the country cyber safe? Like, is it money? Because everything costs money. That's of course, and everything is costly. Or is it citizens clicking on fishy stuff and getting themselves into trouble and getting their organization into trouble? Like, what is the biggest challenge? Was it educating people? Like I can also make this mistake, like getting citizens being aware that one click can be disastrous, not only for you and your savings, but for the organization you work in? Or was it getting enough money and build the infrastructure? What was the most challenging? For instance, in Estonia, the pioneer. When we ask about the story of digitalization, what was the biggest challenge in that?
Again, I think I have to go back in time. Because when we talk about digitalization, we very often think that it's technological, that it's about technology, but actually it's at least the big transformation that happened in Estonia in the beginning of 90s. It was not so much technological than cultural, societal. Because what our people or the founders of Estonian e-governance are saying, they are saying that the technology is the same globally, the same everywhere, all around the world. But what makes a difference is the local application. How do you apply this or that solution? And that's a key. And the mindset. There is a big shift in mindset. And the most important thing is, believe me or not, is your people's trust. Your society really has to believe, has to trust that what your government is doing, your government is doing that for you and not for themselves. The trust is very important. I can tell you, when we had a visit of Honorable Mr. Vistricil, the President of Senate to Estonia, 2021, then we, of course, organized him a comprehensive program, and he was taken everywhere, and he met interesting people, had interesting discussions, e-Estonia showroom, and afterwards, of course, we were very curious what his impressions were, and we were very surprised to learn that he wasn't impressed at all about the technological solutions, but he said that he was struck by the degree of the trust what Estonians had in their e-solutions, in their e-governance. So the trust is important, that your people trust what the government is doing, and it's also very important in cybersecurity or keeping your country safe. In 1997. And I have to remind you that 1997 was a year when only 1.7% of world's population was using internet, was connected to internet, and Google just had startup Google just had registered its name, its domain name. And in 1997, in Estonia, our former president, Toomas Hendrik Ilves, who was at that time our ambassador to the United States, his idea was to initiate an educational program called Tiger Leap. It meant that all schools had computers, all schools connected to internet. And by 2000, all schools had computers, and 2001, all schools were connected to internet. So, and it was a huge thing. And I think this also raised awareness, and we also had programs for adults, for old people. And now I just I finish and I give floor to my colleagues, but I just want to mention one other thing which is quite which I like in this digitalization process, because now we have come up something new, 2025. This is the initiative of our current president, and now there is a TI in Estonia, T-Hüpe, which is AI Leap, which means that all schools will be provided with the AI educational applications, and they will be taught the skills. So I think that this is like should be second leap to in our development. But I leave the hardest part of this question to answer to my beloved colleagues.
Mr. Hennic, what was most difficult in digitalization of Latvia?
Not much to add, because I'm not really an expert of cybersecurity, but what can I repeat again? This is about the education, about the level of preparation or level of skills of IT specialists. What I remember from my personal opinion, then yes, we are in a way of digitalization like Estonians, maybe not so far, but I remember that then we started all of these new programs. There always were problems. You need a kind of transition period. It takes maybe some months, even longer, yeah, and that would be the challenge. But if you start a new program and suddenly you are going from the papers to the digital level, yeah, and it's challenge for everybody, for the ordinary citizens and for the specialists and civil servants on other side as well. That's from my point of view.
Mr. Kačinskas, what was the obstacles on making Lithuania safe cyber safe?
Wanted to say that to compete with Estonians was probably the most difficult part, but actually, in fact, you see here ambassadors of 3 Baltic countries sitting in front of you, which is kind of we pushed each other to go forward and competing with each other, but it always helped us to move forward and to be innovative, to be modern, and to be successful. Because the truth is that we don't have other choice than to be successful. That's the only choice of survival in this increasingly globalized and increasingly difficult world, to be successful. So there is no another alternative for us not to succeed. And I think that's one of the best thing for us, but probably it's also the most difficult part for us, that always to make this additional step forward, to make additional mile, and to always to modernize, to push at each other, to help each other to push. Probably this is programmed in our genes, in our situation, that we continue this way, and I think we will continue this way. And you will see the Baltics will be the most prosperous region in 15, 20 years, because from where we're coming, when we were kind of had to start from the scratch, look at us now, we're really growing economies, modern economies. So we achieved in those 35 years huge success. People don't sometimes realize, because maybe we're too small, too tiny, and easy to overlook. But when you see the figures, when you see at all the indexes, this was the best success story what Europe could have. Of course, the success was partly and largely because of the hard work of our people, of our politicians, of our businessmen, and so on and so forth. But it was also the success of Europe, the success of the United States. Everybody who believed in us, and at the beginning, not many people believed in us, not many countries believed in us. We regain our independences. I think it's very important to stress this always: word regain, but not gain. It's reestablished our independences against all odds, against all the predictabilities. Everybody were pursuing this Russian first policy. Everybody saying, don't rush, don't declare don't reestablish your independence, don't declare your freedom. You will ruin Gorbachev's perestroika and glasnost. You won't prevent unification of Germany. Just stay calm, stay within the European Union. We didn't listen in the Soviet Union. We didn't listen. We moved forward. We succeeded. We are prosperous now. But the problem is that everything is at stake. And that's when I said that we can't take things for granted. And to have this miracle success continuing, we need the help of everybody who were part of our freedom journey and our success journey.
Can I add something? Just reminds me that actually we also had to convince our allies in NATO and our partners in the European Union at the very beginning. Actually, in both of them, no one wanted to deal with cyber issues. We were told that, okay, stay calm with your cyber. And now you see what is cyber in NATO and what is cyber in the EU. So at the very beginning, it was very hard to convince our own partners in that.
And and let me remind you that not only cyber issues, which were not part of the agenda. I remember very well after 2014 when Russia occupied Crimea. And we closed the Russia Today on the reason that this is a disinformation and hybrid channel. It has nothing to do with the freedom media. We received lots of criticism from Brussels, from other countries, how we dare to challenge the free speech, free media. So this understanding that some other countries using instruments that we as democracies have created for their own advantage against us, this awakening was very slow. and only after full-scale invasion that we started to think seriously about all these hybrid attacks, be it of cybersecurity nature, of the disinformation, propaganda, or other.
Why was it so?
Back in the 90s, we believed that this is the end of history, that the liberal democracies have prevailed, and there are no challenges. There was this idealism very strongly visible among the politicians, institutions, and countries. And as I said, it took lots of wake-up calls for us to really wake up. We kept saying, all three Baltic countries kept saying from the very beginning, we never believed in this notion of end of history. It was the bullshit, because once we regained established our independences, when we started proceeding on the way to the European Union and NATO, it wasn't an easy journey for us. We had to convince, and not only we had to deal with Moscow, with Russia's opposition, but very often with the mindset which prevailed in the Western countries, that as we are kind of separate case, someone's zone of influence. So we had to change the perceptions, the mindsets, and things like that. So this also had to do with that nobody at the beginning, it was difficult for people to recognize that somebody can use the democratic instruments against us.
About breakers or icebreakers, I could add some other examples that we are, three Baltic states, we are leaders in some others icebreaking actions, let's say, like, all of you know about the weaponization of the illegal migration. And from the very beginning, then Belarusians, backupping by Russians, started this pressure to our border, especially Latvian, Lithuanian, and Poland's border. That there was really, we had from the very beginning hard discussions with the Brussels about what is it, whether we should accept such a behavior of the Belarusians, because it should be kind of the bit more people, but this is kind of the classical migration. But we are trying to prove them that no, it's kind of the specific tool, hybrid warfare tool, how to impact us, how to try to destabilize the eastern flank of NATO. And finally, I think that they broke this eye, and now there are totally different approach from the EU institutions, from NATO institutions. There are common understanding that this is a tool, real hybrid tool against NATO, against the EU. And now we even received, I think that Lithuanians as well, additional money how to fight with this, to strengthening our eastern border, to strengthening border infrastructure, to improve the professional skills of border guards. And yes, it's one of the additional example how we work as a small countries. Yeah, you can reach a big things. And maybe the most important issue is, let's say, to persuade our Eastern or Western partners that we should look to the Russia bit with another approach, because there are still kind of the romantic, let's say, let's put in this way, look to the Russia, and there are still many who dreams about turn back to the business as usual. Then war in Ukraine would be ended, but we push the policy that we should be serious on Russia's policy, and especially regarding the sanction policy. We are really the leaders to push forward the sanction packages against Russia, and it was not an easy, really. Now we are at the 16 already, maybe 17 package we will have. And it takes a lot of nerves and efforts from our side to persuade our partners that this is the right way, at least one of the tool how we deter Russians from the further aggressions. And please don't believe that sanctions doesn't work. They work, because we know that one of the requests of Russians now even that please cancel the sanctions. Yeah, that means that sanctions are working. Maybe it's sometimes difficult to calculate how much damage they create for Russians, but it works.
When you were talking about moving forward, is it time to really push for creating of something called Europe Big Tech? Because all this digitalization and all this infrastructure inevitably could be either Chinese or American. And it's pretty reasonable to think that in near future, American companies do necessarily not have to be partners to rely on. But without them, nothing can be done, because all the hardware stuff can be either Chinese or American. And is it time and is it realistic to create companies that could compete with them and could be as strong, could be competition to them, and we can say, well, thank you, Amazon, but we will use Estonian stuff from the company which was created 10 years ago and now is one of the leaders in the market. So is it time for this push? And is it realistic?
I think it's, of course, it's possible and desirable. Europe and the European Union specifically have all means and capabilities to do this. You know, we spent huge money in research and development, in universities, education. What we're missing that it's not hitting the markets, our innovations, and we don't have this capability of capitalizing on it and translating it into the products, but it comes with the bureaucracies, with all other obstacles, and that's why we in European Union have these discussions now to make sure that to ease this way and to remove the obstacles and making sure that we have those big techs. It's not just for the security, but it's also the competition is always good as it lowers prices and makes the products better. Take be it I don't know the satellite internet or other services that can be provided. So you know we have the Draghi report, we have other initiatives. So let's see how this will translate into the practices, whether they won't stay just in white papers and reports, but whether we'll see certain actions. Lots of can be done on the national level, on the member states level, so we don't have to look always at the Brussels, at the European Union as one organism. We can do on the national levels a lot as well. So nobody on the member states level, nobody prevents us from removing bureaucracies and red types.
Yes, but also new Microsoft will not be born in Czech Republic, because just simply not. It will be born.
Why not?
It will be born in Europe and maybe in Czech Republic.
That's Skype born in Estonia.
Yes, and then bought by Microsoft.
Yeah, but
and now. Exactly, that's it. The ideas are here, but then the big company comes, and you know the transfer to be the world leader is extremely difficult for European companies for some reasons. And so, is the push already happening, or is it waiting for?
Don't you think that maybe this is part of our problem, that we don't have belief in ourselves, that we say, no, it won't happen because Microsoft will come and will take over? You know, Americans don't think in this way, and those Americans are partly coming from Europe, who initiated all the some of the best companies. So maybe it's also the problem in our mindset, and we have to change the attitude that we can do it. can do it.
We can totally do it. We just don't have the big enough
president
market.
who said
That's
can do
right?
it?
I guess. I mean, it's not about belief or being good at something. Of course, Europeans are just as good engineers as Americans, or they work there, of course. Like from Germany, you go to Seattle to work there. The market is different because Czech Republic is not such a big market.
But Czech Republic is part of the market of 550 million of the European Union.
Exactly. So do you think
bigger
that
than US market?
Yeah, good. So do you think that this market will soon generate these companies? Are we doing enough of that? Because
I have a belief, and I think it also partly related with the security challenges that we have now in Europe, that it will push us to do more active and to create the products what's needed. Related with the space products, with internet, space internet, irises and the production line. I understand now by 2030. So yes, I do believe. But lots of, will play out in the coming months and years. We'll see what the EU moves, and if we will be able to secure our future, if we will ensure security, if we will ensure stability, and will renew this trust in ourselves and belief in our strengths, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot. But it has to go hand in hand with the security situation. Nowadays, unfortunately, there are huge security challenges, and if we won't get together, if we won't get united, if we won't get serious about our security, I'm afraid that the business will be running across the Atlantics and maybe into Asia or somewhere else. But there's a potential.
Your thoughts on the topic? Comment.
Yeah, since Rolandas mentioned Skype, I just have to go back to Skype because long live Skype. It's the fairy tale will be over in May, but I think that we all have good memories of Skype, and Skype was first in its kind. And I also wanted to emphasize that actually these were Danes and Swedes whose company it was initially, but the software developers were Estonian, so it's Estonian invention, and these were poor guys. So I don't know how much money comes into play when we talk about big inventions. They were probably just hungry and ambitious to create something great. I also think that I very much agree what Rolandas was saying. For some reason, and it even kind of sounds weird to my ears, that we have totally lost self-confidence. We are so dependent on America that it's horrifying, and I think most of that dependence we were not even aware of before Mr. Trump struck his I don't know what is Mr. Tesla, yes. So we also have to acknowledge where we have made mistakes, because I think that President Macron has come up with his idea of European strategic autonomy years ago, and then we all Atlantists, we small Atlantists, Baltics and Czechs and Poles and the leading Atlantists, we were all looking at this suggestion very skeptically, and we were very ironic about it. Yeah. And now we just have to now recognize, we have to admit that he was right. And admitting also our mistakes, that is also important. And I also have to say that I remember when we Estonians joined the mission in Iraq when America called upon, created a coalition of willing and called upon us, and we so diligently also lined up, we Baltic countries, and I remember there was a lot of criticism in Estonia. And then we just told our people that we just have to do that, because we cannot be just consumers of security. We have to show to our biggest allies that we are there if they need us, that we are also providers of security. And now we see that it was all in vain. We lost a lot of Estonian guys in Afghanistan. It's really heartbreaking when you just think about it. So let's recognize our mistakes, and let's not kind of downplay our abilities, our capabilities. We have enough money. What is lacking is political will.
Exactly, and I would like to add another example to the discussion of what's achievable and not achievable, and it's energy independence. Nobody believed, for instance, in the Lithuanian case, that it's achievable, but from being 100% oil dependent, gas dependent, and even electricity dependent, we became totally independent from the Russian energy sources. It took time. It took, of course, money and political will, but when there's a political will and there's strategy and there's vision, everything is possible. We were the first, to say that we don't want to pay for the Russian gas, which was used as a blackmail against us for many years, and although being closest to the Russian market and to the Russian gas transportation system, even having gas pipelines running from Russia into Kaliningrad through our territory, but nevertheless we had to pay 40% more expensive for gas than the rest of the European countries, just because Russia was using the energy sources for the blackmail. But we did it. We constructed LNG with the help of Norway. We purchased from Norway actually this LNG vessel, leased, not purchased. We purchased it now. It was a difficult choice, caused lots of internal political fight, but those who had vision and had the political will, they stood firmly on it, and the history proved that we were right, because when the war full-scale invasion broke against Ukraine, so imagine if we hadn't had this LNG terminal, which was able to supply the gas not only for our market but also for Estonian and Latvians. So everything is possible. And the latest example about this energy independence is that 3 our Baltic countries just disconnected from the former old Soviet Russian electricity grid, connected with the continental European market again. It was difficult, it was costly, but we always had this idea that we have sufficient, that we have to be independent, and we have to be connected with all possible means with Europe.
Mr. Henning, your thoughts on that?
About, if I understand you correctly, you are speaking about the companies champions, yeah? Something like this one, because we have had several times such a discussion in the framework of European Union, and of course there are no any decisions about this, because evil is in details always, because the one point which is very important, that we still the free market in European Union, and we have to take into account this one. And the second one is about the possibility for every EU country to participate in this project. And there is always a problem, because there are big countries and small countries, and everyone would like to use the European Union money and financing. And it's about the honest or equal approach to these projects. And that's maybe still we have a discussions, but I really, as well, like Rolando said, I really dream that sometime we will have the strong European company which will be able to really compete with American or Chinese companies. But no, as you know, in European Union, we need always bit more time to come to the final decision on different issues. And then maybe regarding this political will, what you mentioned, this is about for example, about the current topical issue what we have. It's about how to really to increase our European defense capabilities. Yeah, how to restart, let's say, the European defense industry. Yeah? And for this, I'm sure that you need, first of all, the political will, because we know that for example, all of the defense companies maybe they would be ready to increase their production, but they need the guarantees from the governments who will buy these products. And for this, it's absolutely about the government's decisions to do this. But then is the next point, yeah, because you have to explain your societies. Why are you buying more arms? You invest more in defense industries, and for this you need a real strategic communication to explain for society that really it's now. And by the way, French President Macron recently really delivered a speech and quite openly said where we are, and it was kind of the call for the French society to wake up, to understand that they are living now not in the early 90s, but it's totally different time, and we have to be prepared for all possible scenarios. You know this famous Romanian expression that if you want peace, be prepared for the war. And we should not afraid from this one, because if you are armed, you are dangerous, and nobody maybe would like to clash with you. And that's from my point of view. Yeah, thank you.
Or it could be opposite, that this political will is generated, by the political establishment. By the society. Maybe this, the push for the defense could come from the society. And again, what makes probably us different from some other EU and NATO countries, that there's a big push from within societies for our governments to increase, I don't like this word increase, to invest in the defense more. To go back to the conscript army, because society felt that politicians, the governments, they have to do something in order to guarantee the future. When Russia occupied Crimea back in 2014, we had a huge push from within society to go back to the conscript type of army, because like many other new NATO newcomers had abolished conscription upon the entering into NATO and opted for the professional army. But soon we realized that we have to go back to the conscription. We have to go back to the total defense concept, and for that we need to invest more in the defense. So that's why I would say for my government and for the state of Lithuania in general, it was easy to keep increasing investing into defense, and recently all the major political forces agreed that if there's a need, the government is ready to invest 5 or 6% for the defense, of 5%, 6% of the GDP to the defense, because we want to make sure that we are ready, that we increase the deterrence threshold, and we'll do everything possible to keep us safe and to keep our allies, including Czechs, safe. But we also need a support from our allies, and here we have a strong gratitude and appreciation for for Czech Republic, which has always participated in the NATO Eastern deterrence measures, first by taking part in the NATO air policing mission for many years, and since 2015 sending the troops for the NATO enhanced forward presence in Lithuania and Latvia. And I always give example of Czech Republic as a country which stands in solidarity and stands in increasing this consolidating NATO eastern flank, not just with the political statements, but with the boots on the ground. Your 140, 150 soldiers that are deployed in Lithuania a very valuable contribution to the NATO eastern flank deterrence, just to make sure that we stay together, we keep our countries safe.
What was the public saying about the 5 or 6%? They said, yes, we are in. Or was it contentious a bit?
As I said, the first, like 3 years ago, we had this big public campaign where even the business enterprises were part of. It was called 4%. So that country would need to raise the defense expenditures to 4%. Just for the record, last year the investments into defense were 2.9%. This year, in this current budget, it's 3.2%, but with the decisions taken already to increase it further, and we'll keep increasing as much as needed just to keep the country safe. And I said, of course, there are limits till where we can increase. Lucky us, economies are growing. So there's kind of room for increasing investments, but I think people understand that they will have probably to tighten the belts a little bit just to keep the home safe.
Is it same in Latvia and Estonia? Is the sentiment just the same or a bit different in some way?
Estonia spends this year 3.4% for the defense. And I think that in Estonia, the discussion is led by the... we've always had a very vocal and very good speakers, our chiefs of staff. And our defense people also, they are very good and very, sometimes I really envy, and I just think that how come that they are so good speakers. So they are leading the discussion, and it's not always very easy because we are talking about big sums of money and they always want more, and probably rightly so. Estonia's economy is not growing, or this year it started to grow, but it's really minimal. So, but there is the society is supportive, but society is following very cautiously and very carefully. Society wants to know where the government is putting that money, what kind of capabilities the government is or has decided to buy, and all issues connected to that. There is no kind of reticence or the society is not against raising the defense expenditure. And we have conscription. We never abolished conscription. So this is we don't have this discussion in our society as you do here, to our great surprise, that sometimes it even seems as if this is such a taboo topic that it's even cannot be discussed in the society.
Conscription in Czech? No, no way. Yes, you're right. It's not even on the table. Like maybe someone who really wants to will be allowed to hold a gun.
Tell me why. You have the Munich, you had the suppressed Prague Spring. So
maybe
why
the
there's such a mood in the society? So
I'm afraid I'm not capable in the next 3 years to answer it completely. I don't know. It's really, yeah, it's, I guess the answer is not easy, but you are the guest. So, what is the Latvian sentiment?
Yeah, a few words about the Latvian situation. Our expenditures for the current year is 3.45%. And now there are even ideas maybe to reach 4% in this year, but the aim is, of course, 5%. And it's not only about the percentage, it's not kind of the mathematics, but it's about our necessities, about the capabilities, what we really need, defense capabilities. And this is a cost, of course, for this, but we have I would say, almost consensus about what we need increase these defense expenditures. It's about the society, about the leading political parties, that there are no any discussions whether we need to increase, and we will do it. And yes, if we compare with other countries, I have a list of let's say our commitments, what we done already in Latvia to improve our defense capabilities. Yeah, we returned back as well to the conscription service. It was just 2 years ago. We just started to return back. Now we have kind of the mixed model that we partly professional army, partly conscription service, and the third part is National Guards. And together, army consists of almost, I would say, 20,000 soldiers. It's like in Czech Republic, you have somewhere around 24,000, yeah, and plus 10,000 at active reserve. What we have now, but plans is to double this amount from current 20 to for the 30, and maybe even to reach the 40,000. That would be the armed forces for Latvia, because it's really necessary. If you want to be not only the security, not only to consume security, but as well to provide for security, you need such capabilities. And plus, we should think about as well the civil society. And it's very important to increase their awareness about the critical situations and possibility of the war. And for this, the Ministry of Defense, they work very hard, and we have prepared now already two brochures. One is what to do in the crisis situation and what to do in the war situation. The first 72 hours. And it's very good for average people just to understand, to be aware about what will be your next steps. And plus, of course, we have to start with the schools. You have to start to educate the children what happened, yeah. And now from the last year we have this special defense education subject in our secondary schools, and that means that it's kind of the basic preparation for this young people. They have an possibility to educate the basic knowledge of defense skills, and this is, it seems to me, very good. That means that you are coming for the conscription service, or kind of the basic knowledge of defense skills, but for the future at least, because we started just the last year.
Does anybody want to ask something? I see a hand.
Hello, I'm Eric from Portugal, and I've been thinking of a question for you guys. And what I want to ask in the relation with cybersecurity is also this question: where does cybersecurity live? Because it's kind of a neutral space, and where this falls into the hybrid warfare issue. In the sense that an attack in the cyberspace, is it really considered an attack in the country or not? And how does it cause responses from the government or neighboring countries? And I mean, this whole question of hybrid warfare is very interesting, because the feeling that I get nowadays is that most of the time the approach is to dismiss it as an attack, because the response, or admitting it as an attack, would be requiring a response from the government, and this would be escalation, and we want to avoid that. So my question for you is, in your circles of diplomacy, let's say, how has this changed over time? And have you seen some things that were not, that wouldn't be considered like a neutral space now be considered, for example, damaging cables undersea? Maybe a few years ago this would be considered as an attack, but nowadays we don't want to escalate. So my question is, how does this evolve, and what is your opinion on it?
I just wonder, where should I start? As you know, in Estonia we have this, in Tallinn, this cyber center of NATO Cyber Center of Excellence, and what they've been doing there is they have produced two manuals, how the international law applies to cyberspace, Tallinn Manual 1 and Tallinn Manual 2. But of course, I think that your question is quite complex, but one thing is for sure, that cyber attack is very different from kinetic attack. In cyber, a lot of harm can be done that remains under the threshold, so that attribution will be very difficult. So this is the way how until now most of the cyber attacks have been realized. Attribution is very serious issue. For example, when we talk about what happened in Estonia 2007, then we know that these attacks came from the Russian IP addresses. The language of instruction was Russian, and still no one has officially attributed those attacks to Russia. I don't want to let you kind of a misleading impression that I know the answer to your question. I think this is a work in progress, but if you really want to dive into this issue more deeply, then you probably have to read those manuals. But I do agree that this is, the cyber domain is very, very important, and it's what is happening there is getting more importance. And I've been thinking all the time that now we are at the verge of this precarious peace between Ukraine and Russia. We don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but anyway, it's going to be on the detriment of Ukraine. And then the big question is, when this kind of peace has been struck, what Russia is going to do next. I think that they are using hugely cyber domain, and they are already doing it. But cyber is such an interesting creature that usually you don't hear. You are not able to read in the news in the evening that today happened something in the cybersphere. There is a lot that is going on.
Much to add, I would say, because really this is a very specific topic, and it's better to ask these questions to the experts who really know what happened. And only what I said in the beginning, that really it depends on your capabilities to prevent these cyber attacks. And so far, what I know from at least in my country, the institution really works very successful, and I had to prevent many attacks. And of course, nobody write about this every day. It's a bit kind of the hidden part of this fight. but still, yeah, it's better maybe to attend the Estonian Cyber Center and visit and to discuss with the experts.
No, but it's true that it's gaining more understanding that it's an important issue, be it cybersecurity specific or hybrid threats in general. And if you read the NATO Washington Summit declaration, you will see that hybrid threats are included as one where the actions might be needed taken against if we see the if the NATO allies decides that concludes that these threats are critical. So at least what we do from our side, we're pushing towards more recognition that these issues are important, and what we see in the Baltic Sea happening, it's really unacceptable, and we should make more actions in order to prevent this type of hybrid threats, be it coming from one country or another country.
I wanted to ask, I heard a soft drink executive once say something like that people don't drink actually specific soft drinks, they just drink marketing. And my question is more on, we're talking about cyber threats, but what about like Russian propaganda? And it seems like that there's like a lot of like propaganda on Facebook, in the comments and things like this, and then you hear that propaganda coming from a lot of people in society, and you see that reflected in their votes, especially maybe and maybe here if we can look at like the Visegrad countries, then what's happening here, especially in some of them, then we can kind of see, I think, in my personal opinion, like the effects of that propaganda. And so I guess my question is like, what do you, from like the Baltic perspective, your opinion on that, on basically going against that Russian propaganda that is in these social networks and things like this?
It's quite complicated issue because Baltic states are in a bit different situation because we have historical experience. And you know, the Russian propaganda mostly doesn't work in our countries, and from this point of view, we are quite resistant societies. But anyway, at least in Latvia, we pay quite. Let's say, attention to this issue, and especially for the issues of strategic communication. Anyway, you know that then after Russia's aggression to Ukraine, we made some decisions. For example, we closed Russian domains, RU. It's impossible to read this in Latvia. I can do this here in Czech Republic, but I can do this in Latvia. We closed all of the Russian TV channels. It's impossible legally to watch Russian TV channels. We closely monitoring all of the information space. We have a special department, government in State Chancellery for the strategic communication. We know how the picture, what happened, what kind of narratives we have, and for this we have a special people who prepared the line to takes if there appear kind of the problematic issues or they need additional explanation for the problem, that we prepared special line to takes for all of the government institutions to take one position. And we can explain in different ways what happened. Then, of course, it was quite recently, we opened one internet site specially devoted for how to fight with disinformation. The name is Black on White, and you can simply go in and to understand how to recognize disinformation, how to counter disinformation, all possible examples. It's a digital way, and we have a State Chancellery prepared a special handbook for everybody. You can read what does it mean, how to act, how to react to these problems. That means that anyway, even if your society is quite resistant to this one, it's better to be prepared and to prepare additional tools how to explain this problem. Of course, the Latvian situation is a bit specific because we have quite a large number of I would say non-Latvians, because using the Russian-speaking population, it's maybe not correct way, and we have a different nations. Approximately 60% of Latvian inhabitants are Latvians, and 40% are other nations, and from total amount of people, 25 are Russians. Let's put in this way, and of course, how to approach Russian society. It's challenge. On the one hand, it's quite clear that it's almost impossible to change their minds, because anyway they somehow find a way how to consume the Russian propaganda products, and it's difficult to reach their minds. But anyway, it's somehow it doesn't create a kind of the problems for the situation in the country, because this part of population or this Russian community is quite calm. And that means that the Russian propaganda, maybe it's somewhere deep inside of them, but it's not somehow, we don't see any activities from these communities. That's just what can I say about situation in Latvia.
I agree that probably we are quite immune to Russian propaganda. Very vigilant and very careful what we see, what we read, and I think there has been a good education of journalists and teachers and society in general to recognize where the propaganda is and disinformation is. So I don't worry so much about the Russian propaganda reaching Lithuanian society. I'm more worried about what's happening outside of Russia and how immune or not immune other societies, European countries, or the countries of the world in general are. What we see is, they're playing clever. So what they're trying to do is to show that actually there is no one truth. Everything can have the many truths. So they have the distorted notion that try to inflict on us that there's no good and bad. There are lots of shades, lots of information, and everybody's lying. Nobody's telling the truth. And I think we have to be aware of this and somehow to distinguish what's important and what's critical for us. And unfortunately, we see this in other countries that sometimes they get on the hook of that Russian narrative. And with this in mind, one thing comes to my mind specifically is, as we approach the commemoration of the World War II, the end of the World War II, the 80th anniversary, we see this narrative being played, and which was used also in attacking Ukraine, that it has to do partly fight against Nazism and so on and so forth. So somebody is trying to monopolize the history and to shape the narrative of the war, of atrocities that were committed. And I think we have to be aware of this, and we have to put more efforts in trying to assess and to evaluate the crimes committed by all the totalitarian regimes, including by communism. This has to do with education. This has to be recognized by the societies and taken seriously.
But maybe Ms. Kalmet has some to add to this.
There is not much add. I think critical thinking is very important. One thing is Russian propaganda, but critical thinking generally to make difference what is right and what is wrong, what is truth and what is not truth. In Estonia, again, since I'm Estonian ambassador, we have a voluntary organization, Propastop, and they are basically what they are doing. They are disclosing the lies. Sometimes media is also quite willingly picking up some half-truths or something. So Propastop is kind of providing the facts and writing that, you know, this is, they cross out what is wrong, and this is quite interesting and quite practical exercise and quite impressive. But we older, if I may say that, so older generation, we are kind of we have come through the Soviet system, so we are quite we are not prone to Russian propaganda, but education, yes, as it's been said.
I had a question when we were talking about the cyber attack and cybersecurity. I had one question that comes to my mind, and that's about EMPs. Actually, we know that EMPs are specifically created by the huge energy that's like electromagnetic pulse. And when we are talking about this, I was thinking about your e-democracy, you know, and the systems that are going on. Actually, are the crucial thing is to like provide the security of it, since the EMPs are a real thing, and I see this. I didn't see this topic, and I think it's overseen on the global field, because you know there are like electric vehicles for armies, and since there are like EMPs, we can talk about like total destruction of these like you know, OBS, the destruction of the infrastructure. So my question is like, how do you provide the security of the systems, like the infrastructure and also the system itself, about the democracy and the governments, because it can cause the chaos if they were destroyed in the specific moment.
That is devilishly. That is a most pervertly specific question. I'm not sure. The electromagnetism, of course, is. But anyways, the physical part of cybersecurity. Can we say something about physical part? Because that's what we're talking about, right? One thing is the program, and the other thing is
physical part. Now I can tell you what Estonia did in Ukraine, because Ukraine is the society is really advanced, the digital society, and they depend on connectivities. So when the war broke out, there was a total chaos, and Ukraine had to do something about its digital infrastructure. Part of it, the majority of it, or the major part of it, was evacuated to cloud, but not because of the nature of certain systems that were not able to be evacuated to cloud. they had to be taken to physically to NATO territory to safeguard them. And you can ask me which country that is, where Ukrainian data and servers are kept. This is my answer.
Where are they? Some notions to physical securing the infrastructure. It's really a very specific question.
Now we go home and we do our homework.
Yeah, so next year, the electromagnetism will be my first question. But I think that was the last question. Thank you for that. And thank you for being here. And thanks to our guests, our excellencies. And thanks for coming and have a nice evening. Goodbye.